Would you like to get updated with the latest episode of AnimeKouhai Tensura spoiler series? It's episode number 252, entitled, The Three Youngsters Contemplate on Deserting to Tempest. Support the channel and you will have access to 3 episodes per week. Check out her Patreon page if you get a chance.
Given that one careless word was all it took to leak their conspiracy.
Wait, Yuki-san!
Shinji hurried to cut him off, but Yuki answered him with a smirk.
Don't worry. Master Gadra is aware of my plan.
What?
What else did you expect? While I do feel indebted to His Imperial Majesty, I don't really care what becomes of the Empire. My objective is to destroy Ruminism. I was blind to the fact that the god Ruminas is, in reality, Demon Lord Ruminas. What becomes of her believers is of no concern to me. However, I must bury those who killed my friend with my own hands, or else, I won't ever find peace. First, I want to dispose of this Rimuru, who is rumored to be on good terms with Demon Lord Ruminas. I also plan to join you in the conquest of this labyrinth.
I don't care what happens after that, Gadra said internally, a mad smile on his face. Of course, Gadra had heard rumors about Demon Lord Rimuru. A year ago, the kingdom of Pharmas had incurred the wrath of the storm dragon Veldora and brought upon themselves their own destruction. And once that violent act exhausted the storm dragon's strength, it allowed Demon Lord Rimuru to subjugate it. It was unclear whether he really subjugated it or if they were simply allies. Nevertheless, since then, the storm dragon had not shown any signs of an outburst, or even released a colossal amount of Yuki. This led Gadra to believe that there was some truth to these rumors after all. In addition, there was some disturbance among the demon lords. It was said that several demon lords had withdrawn from the 10 great demon lords, consequently turning it into the octagram. The human society was notified of this change, and Demon Lord Rimuru was undeniably the root cause behind all this. The fact that Clayman, one of the 10 great demon lords, had disappeared, and the newcomer Rimuru had earned a spot, clearly meant that Rimuru was stronger than Clayman. Clayman was a cunning and formidable demon lord, but Rimuru was an even greater threat. Moreover, Rimuru had established diplomatic relations with mankind and had buried his roots deep into the Western States Council. He had no idea what the Western nations were thinking, but Gadra was certain that it was dangerous to anger the demon lord named Rimuru. Besides, there was something else that bothered him. Only 3 people survived the military campaign of Pharmas, in which 20,000 were thought to have participated. Out of these 3, 1 had been murdered, leaving only the former king and Gadra's own former apprentice, Raisin. I guess I'll have to ask Raisin about this. There are so many things that I don't know about Demon Lord Rimuru, Gadra thought to himself, reminding himself to be cautious. It was disconcerting that there was no proof of the storm dragon destroying the army of Pharmas. In a normal war, losing 30% of your forces as casualties spelled the failure of a campaign, and usually led to a definite surrender. Yet, there was no record of any such action taken by the Pharmas army. And, of course, some believed that the storm dragon didn't accept any would-be prisoners of war. But Gadra remained skeptical. After all, he was a survivor of the previous great expedition and had an idea of how Veldora would have reacted. The storm dragon wasn't the type to chase down people who were trying to escape. It would cause unimaginable damage, but only to those who were caught in its opening attack. Knowing this, it was hard for Gadra to assume that all 20,000 soldiers were annihilated at the hands of Veldora. Then, Demon Lord Rimuru must have had a hand in this. Given his reputation, that didn't seem to be the case. It was likely that he wouldn't have taken their lives if they had surrendered. Yet, the reports stated otherwise, complete annihilation. I suppose I ought to assume that Veldora turned them to ashes before they ever got the chance to surrender. Gadra was honestly horrified. For that reason, a head-on battle with Veldora should be avoided at all cost, and thankfully, measures for that had already been prepared. The bad news was Demon Lord Rimuru, but once their investigation took place, they would be able to develop countermeasures to put their minds at ease. On that note, Gadra took a step back to reflect on his position. He didn't hold any personal grudge against Demon Lord Rimuru, but if he was in league with Demon Lord Ruminas, that made him an enemy. While yes, Gadra would have liked to defeat his enemies, he couldn't afford to throw caution to the wind. He had spent many years planning the downfall of the Western nations at the hands of the Empire. Now that his goal was within arm's reach, he couldn't get ahead of himself. Yuki's and Gadra's interests aligned, and as a result of their discussion, they had decided to share information and help each other as brothers in arms to form a united front. Shinji and the others were taken aback by this striking revelation. You couldn't blame them for needing a moment to digest it. This mission, one slip up and we're done for. Shinji wasn't stupid, he knew they didn't trust his team, but he didn't get the impression that they viewed them as mere sacrificial pawns. Instead, he believed that they were testing them. Mark and Shin felt the same.
Understood. We won't leave a single stone unturned.
Well, we sure won't be slowing down the old man, so look forward to it.
I will do my best.
The importance of their mission couldn't be overstated. If they were successful, then... No, it dawned on them that they had to pull it off if they wanted to make it through alive.
Then let me ask you, do you guys know how many demon lords there are?
Yes, 8, right?
Shinji replied.
What?
Mark gasped.
Weren't there 10? Wait, didn't it increase to 11?
Mark, it just changed last year.
Gadra sighed, then began ranting.
Shinji, feed that idiot the right information. Any soldier who can't be bothered to inform himself will be dead before he knows it.
After taking a moment to calm down, he began to explain.
There are 8 demon lords. They call themselves the Octagram. It may mean that they liken themselves to stars, and it's not entirely wrong for some of them. I'm bringing up this topic because our enemy this time is Rimuru, the newbie in the Octagram. We can never be too careful around him, but let's set that aside for now. Let me tell you the main reason. One of the other demon lords is called the Fairy of the Labyrinth. Well, what do you think this means?
The trio was stunned by his words. Even Yuki couldn't hide his surprise as he glanced at Gadra.
It's the labyrinth, isn't it?
Shinji answered with a tinge of fear in his words. Gadra nodded deeply and pulled out a book and showed it to them. There was a labyrinth called the Dwelling of the Spirits, located in the Republic of Gracia in the west. It was believed to be an underground or aerial labyrinth, but the truth of the matter was something else entirely. Those descriptions were, in a sense, both right and wrong. In the book, it was written that the Dwelling of the Spirits was not only inhabited by spirits, but also by their queen who had transformed herself from a spirit into a fairy.
That queen is this Fairy of the Labyrinth, Ramirez, one of the ancient demon lords.
Gadra's words weighed heavily on the trio. And then, he hit them with the bombshell.
The door to the labyrinth that once existed in the Urger Nature Park has vanished. Believe me, I've checked it out myself. Judging from the information that I heard, it disappeared around the same time that Rimuru declared himself a demon lord, followed by opening the dungeon in his country to the public.
So, this has already been confirmed then? I was wondering how he was able to create such a huge labyrinth, but now, I'm certain that it's the work of Demon Lord Ramirez. In other words, the Demon Lords Rimuru and Ramirez have joined forces.
Yuki concluded with confidence, grinning from ear to ear. Shinji and his crew found no faults in that logic. On the contrary, they were downtrodden as their investigation was looking more and more difficult.
I'm counting on you.
Please, be vigilant.
Then, the trio departed after Yuki clued them in on Rimuru's cunning reign of terror as a demon lord. Following their meeting with Yuki and Gadra, the 3 men were brought to the outskirts of Tempest by Kigali the very next day. 10 days after sending them off, Gadra went somewhere else on his own. Given how Yuki frightened the 3, Gadra decided to leave the initial investigation to them. Yuki probably didn't see them as disposable pawns. He did threaten them a little, to make sure that the trio took their mission seriously. I guess Yuki Dono is not particularly honest, either. He's too competent and hence he expects the same of others as well, huh? Gadra perceived it like that. But the same could be said of him. He had no intention of leaving his disciples to their deaths and intended to help them in times of need. Others thought he was scary since he never expressed these thoughts verbally and silently intimidated the people around him. While being oblivious of this fact, Gadra headed towards the former kingdom of Pharmas. He remembered his former disciple was still there and decided to collect information about Demon Lord Rimuru from him. Gadra rushed over to the former royal capital of Pharmas, Mali's, and then headed straight to the royal palace. Raisin was busy working in his office when he suddenly jumped up from his chair. He felt the presence of his great mentor, Gadra, who he thought was dead.
I can't believe it. He's still alive.
He murmured, as if it was a bad thing. He didn't know what Gadra's intentions were, but he had probably come to look for him. He didn't hold out hope for anything casual like rekindling an old friendship. The problem was that the soldiers of Pharmas didn't know who Gadra was. At this rate, they might begin arguing with Gadra at the castle gates and get on his wrong side, which certainly wouldn't be good for their lifespan. If by any chance they did end up fighting him. Heaven forbid. If that really happened, I certainly wouldn't be able to calm down Gadra-sama. Raisin rushed to action. He called someone who recently became his disciple through magic communication.
Can you hear me?
Don't call me out of the blue.
I believe you are aware of the situation.
Yeah. Grigori doesn't seem to have noticed, but an abnormal presence just appeared. That guy will arrive at the gate soon.
If you know that much, we don't have to waste any time. You guys should come to the gate as well.
Very well. I'm indebted to you.
Then he cut off the magic communication. He had 2 new disciples, Sa-Rei and Grigori. They were the former members of the 3 martial sages, imperial guards affiliated with the Church of the Holy Empire of Rubelius. Raisin became their acquaintance when they had come to the country for a survey mission. They had committed a grave mistake and couldn't return to the church, so Raisin made them his disciples. It was not out of kindness, but simply because he sympathized with them. He had heard about their total defeat, particularly that of Sa-Rei and his companions in front of international journalists. After coming to know that their opponent was Diablo, Raisin was able to relate with them. Although Sa-Rei was impudent, he recognized Raisin as his teacher, and Grigori, who had developed a particular animal phobia, was regaining the fearless attitude that he once possessed. These 2 were impeccable in terms of strength, so Raisin planned to train them and eventually let them work behind the scenes for the Kingdom of Pharmas. That included crisis responses such as this one. So it's going to be me, Sa-Rei, and Grigori. And if Grucius Dono can make it in time, we can hold off Gadra-sama. Soldiers were useless in the face of an individual with overwhelming strength. The current Kingdom of Pharmas suffered from a lack of champion-class talents. The former Pharmas Knight Corps, with the late Fulgen, a departed associate of Raisin's, as its commander, was now a thing of the past. The same went for its many brave, similarly highly classed warriors. Finding talents to replace them was currently a major issue for Pharmas. His sluggish response to the problem had come back to bite Raisin. By the time he reached the castle gates, the other 2 had already arrived and were confronting Gadra.
Hey, man, I'm not sure what sort of business you have here, but we are the ones who guard this castle. You understand that we can't just let an unidentified person enter it, right?
Y'all heard him, old man. I don't want to say anything bad, so you'd better go home for today, will y'all? If you want to meet someone, apply for a visit at the reception. You'll get a reply in a few days.
The 2 thought they were quietly blocking the way so as not to let Gadra pass through. However, from Raisin's point of view, they were bringing doom upon themselves.
Stop! Let him through!
Huh. Aren't we supposed to stop him?
Then what did you call us for?
They seemed miffed about the order, but Raisin had bigger fish to fry.
It's been a long time, Gadra-sama. I'm very sorry for the delay in greeting you, for I had not known that you were still alive,
said Raisin, kneeling down in front of Gadra. Raisin wanted to avoid antagonizing Gadra.
That's it for this video, guys. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. A big thanks to the AnimeKouhai patrons who made this video possible. Jared Bressler, Sanketh Chelu, Minotaur, Chadvota, Byakuya327, Kieron, Ray Perez, Chris Guzman, Donald Williams, Moab A, Day of Light, Diasili, Walter Obi, John M, Speed Saber, John Charles, MTA, Akon Angok, Markithian Tidwell, Trevor Federkins, Andre L. Hamilton, Louis Aleman, Adrian, Kaja Metso, Sean Sinclair, Kumo, Hamami, T-Bush, Justoni Lomoljo, Kirisoto Sama, Mac 3, Dandal Bernal, Changkang, Ron De Leon, John L, Fraser Guzman, Hinavin, Masiaj Besaraba, Abdul Mokti, Silver Fang, Mr. Zonk, Aditya Metal, James. Thank you so much for helping out. I'll see you guys in the next video.